You're now listening to the Something Good Podcast Network. Please press any key to continue.
A kiss, as defined by Dan Webster, is something pleasing, a caress, a gentle touch. But there's another kiss that isn't in Webster's.
Hey world, we're Kiss!
Some critics say they don't make music, they just make noise.
Yeah, Kiss sucks!
Kiss implies the extreme in the theatrics on stage, utilizing fire and smoke and bizarre costumes, and the ever-consistent, constant concealment of their true identities.
Speaking of which, Kiss is going to have its own comic book soon.
Take Kiss with you. It's fun. Show your friends and be the first. Now.
Oh my God, no time to turn!
And welcome once again to No Time to Turn, a Kiss Nerd podcast.
Nerds. All right, you people nerds out there.
We've been trucking through the year.
People nerds.
People nerds.
Yeah.
Are there people nerds?
I mean, yeah, in Kiss World there are, I guess.
I don't know if we're people or just nerds. I don't know. Do we even qualify as people?
We might be robots.
Yeah.
You know, that would be apropos in this episode. We've been trucking through the year 1978, and here it's going to kind of all culminate with a very good bad idea, or a very bad good idea.
Yeah, however you want to look at it.
I don't know, but this is going to be our episode where we're going to look at the classic piece of cinema.
Yes, one could refer it to as such.
Known as Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park.
Yes.
Is it Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, or Kiss Meet the Phantom of the Park?
Meets with an S.
If Gene had been in charge, it would have been E-M-E-A-T.
I think that would have been
Kiss
Paul.
Meets the
Now
Phantom.
listen, I see a lot of people out there I want to eat.
Yeah. This is the movie airs kind of springing off the heels of the release of the solo albums. Mm-hmm. But of course, this was all really thrown together.
Yeah,
the previous spring. Prior to this all coming together, they had been offered a role in a movie that was being made, or was made, based on the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band album, another notoriously bad movie. And they were offered to be the future villain band, and that role ultimately went to Aerosmith.
Right.
And I think Bill Aucoin nixed it because he didn't want to see Kiss portrayed as the bad guys.
Oh yeah, they are going for the hero aspect.
They're the good guys.
There you go. Okay, I see.
So I don't know what you guys have figured out on this. In my research, it looks like they briefly talked with Lou Scheimer's Filmation to do an animated series.
Yeah, I saw that one too, and that didn't seem to really go anywhere. But the pitch that you read everywhere is that they read it, and it was supposed to be a mix between A Hard Day's Night meets Star Wars.
Oh, you're talking about for the movie?
Yes, for the movie.
Okay,
I didn't see much on the animated.
I'm talking about there was a briefly considered an anime with Prescott Scheimer. I don't know if y'all remember in the day. They were produced a lot of the cartoons that you see on Saturday morning. They had the little circle thing that rotated at the end. Filmation. And then meanwhile, NBC and Hanna-Barbera Hanna-Barbera has a development deal with NBC to develop what, as I understand it, live action content.
Yeah,
for primetime specials.
I was about to ask, is this the first time Hanna-Barbera kind of delved into live action content?
I'm not sure if it's the first time, but I
want to say, well, they were part of Banana Splits, and in the movie you do see a Banana Splits head.
Well, there you go. This is going on, and then Jeff Franklin at ATI, which is Kiss's booking agent, he's aware of this deal that Hanna-Barbera has got development, and I think he was the connection there, and approaches Aucoin going, hey, you could do something here.
Right.
And I don't know if they're just thinking the cartoon aspect or whatever. And of course, to Aucoin, this seems like this is the next logical step. You know, everything's advancing, everything's moving. Now we've got to get Kiss their movie.
Yep.
And I'm sure the initial idea here isn't a TV movie. It's
a full-fledged
theatrical
major
release.
motion
Like
picture.
you said, Star Wars meets
A Hard Day's Night.
Hard Day's Night.
Because they still want to keep that Beatles mystique.
The problem here is, how are they presenting this as Star Wars meets A Hard Day's Night when, well, I guess 78. Star Wars came out the year before.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
I'm thinking May 77. On the heels of everything.
So, Star Wars was shit hot. So that makes sense. So they approach Hanna-Barbera, which seems like a curious move to me. Like if you're wanting to make a theatrical film, and now it seems like immediately you're backpedaling, going, okay, well, we'll do a TV film first. This seems like it's almost like they've put the cart before the horse. Let's just make this happen.
So did a coin reach out to them first, or
they approached Hanna-Barbera?
Okay,
and Hanna-Barbera has no concept of what KISS is or what they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Enter once again the unsung hero of KISS. Sean Delaney gets sent out to Hanna-Barbera to explain and I guess develop or somehow develop a story for this to make this happen.
And I find it curious though that the potential / pitched animated series or movie, whatever, wound up not coming to be, because if you think about the primary plot point of Meets the Phantom of the Park, I feel like it would have actually translated to animation a lot
way better. Yeah,
than live
this
action.
This whole thing seems like it would have worked better as an animated feature. But let me stop right here, because if there's one point I think needs to be made in this entire podcast series that I don't know if we've made, and this seems like the excellent point to do it, sending an emissary to Hanna-Barbera to explain the concept of KISS, because they're so clueless about it.
Right.
They have obviously built this fan base that was a cult fan base that they've exploded into this mainstream juggernaut that's really just starting to take root. I mean, this is the next couple of years. We're in the apex of KISS mania. But in this time frame, what makes KISS work, I think, this really needs to be stated, is that so much of who they are is a mystery. KISS don't have personalities. They have personas.
Yeah.
That's what we know. You don't know anything about who these people are. Never mind what their personalities are really like, what their personal lives are really like. We don't even know what they look like. That's a mystery, because they protect that. And I think that's what makes so much of what KISS is to this day successful, is because of a generation that lived through this era. We filled in the blanks with what we had. What we got out of KISS wasn't so much what they gave us, but what we brought to the table with our own imaginations. That's why why their fan base is so varied, and everyone's got such strong opinions about who and what they are, is because what they were was very personal to you as an individual, because so much of what they were was what you interpreted as being.
I fully agree to that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because coming back to the Hard Day's Night comparison, like say with the Beatles movie, that's just 4 guys that are just laughing and having fun and getting in the shenanigans and stuff like that.
But they developed those personalities much more readily than KISS did, because they, you had an identity for each one. You have an identity for each KISS member, but it's still a lot of it's wrapped around an imagination of what you bring to it. Because
I was going to say, to add on to that, I mean, the Beatles definitely did kind of cover that, but the Beatles also had a lot more cameras and footage of them. They did a lot more TV appearances. They did a lot more things where you heard them and saw them speak and you saw their personalities. If you really want to think about it, sure, with us going through this podcast, we can easily go, oh, well, they were on Mike Douglas, they did this, that, and the other, and it was all such a short time span. Well, this was before the era of major syndication, before internet. So if we look, they've only had like 4 or 5 major TV appearances up to this point.
Right. Yeah. And this is an effort to change that. This is an effort to bring them on par with the Beatles.
Exactly.
And the movie,
to give them
Beatles,
personalities.
And that's why you hear the Hard Day's Night comparison. The Hard Day's Night was the first Beatles movie. Now here we're going to have KISS is going to have their own movie.
Yep.
And this is really going to be able to give them more identity, more personality.
But it just leads into further with what you were saying, Russ, is, even though Beatles did have their personalities, it was crafted from seeing them and hearing them so much. Exactly what you said with KISS. Up to this point, you got tiny little snippets if you happen to catch it on TV just in time.
Right. So much of what KISS is really what you make of KISS. And that's why, again, like I said, that's why their fan base, I think, is so combative within their own self, their own ranks. It's because everyone's like, no, KISS is, no.
Right.
And I'm guilty of it too, because this is just because I have my Kiss. Does that make sense?
Yes, I was about to say that's not my Kiss. Kind of thing.
And it's going to be interesting when we start getting up to talking about Psycho Circus and like the farewell tour and stuff, because that's when I became a lot more cognizant of already a fan. So like, just tiny little, snippet. I remember watching the Mad TV episode when it was on air, when they did the whole, Kiss action figures and beating up Michael Jackson. So it's like, that was one of my first really watching Kiss on TV moments.
Right.
So it's like, I kind of have my own version of
from
this
your own era. Yeah.
when we finally get to that point.
But they've sent Sean Delaney out to explain Kiss and to what degree his involvement in the development of this is, I guess, a matter of conjecture. At the end of the day, the credited writers for the script are guys named Jan Michael Sherman and Don Boudet. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce his name.
Boudet.
Booty.
And their credits are mostly B-movie skin flicks and TV shows, which they are not Hanna-Barbera staff writers.
It sounds like Gene found them.
Well, I don't. Gene has nothing to do with this.
That was a joke.
So it's interesting that Hanna-Barbera is trying to branch out, and they're using outside writers or whatever, and to create, I guess, I don't want to say adult content, but they're trying to
teen
expand.
content?
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what the intent here is.
Because when you watch the movie, well, I'm sure we don't want to go through the plot, but we'll talk about certain plot points. But it's like, the security guards are like ultra stoner dudes. They weren't even trying to hide that.
But that's like the ultimate, really like adult quote unquote content.
They were like bootleg Cheech and Chong almost. They're like, hey, come on, man, and like they all had like that. Whoa.
Well, they had I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I could see where you would get that out of the Brian James character, who we'll talk about in a minute, but I don't think it was written that way. It certainly wasn't written that way. I think they wrote this to be, an action adventure film, very much in a comic book kind of mold.
Very Scooby-Doo, which connects to Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
Again, if this was animated, that whole dungeon scene would have looked so much better.
Yeah. Deborah would have gone.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk a little more about the development of this thing, and then we'll start picking it apart.
There's plenty too.
It's odd to me. Like once the ball rolls on this, it's almost like they're slapping it together and they're like, we got to get it done. We got to get it done.
Yeah.
But I don't. They're obviously they're measuring their time as to what their ability is to do all of this, because they also have their grind of 2 albums a year, touring. Okay, where's the window we can do this in? We need to get it done. Looks like we've got a window of opportunity in spring of '78, and we got to get there.
Yep.
By hook or by crook.
And it only seemed like 2 of them, of the 4, were fully engaged.
Well, at this point, they're probably all full on engaged. This seems like a good idea at this point.
But none of them had a clue how to be on camera and perform as an actor or anything like that either.
Well, no, and that's part of the problem here. But they hire a British director named Gordon Hessler, whose credits are mostly, I guess, I want to say B horror films.
That's not a negative.
Yeah, but it's curious.
Indie horror films, low cost horror films, if you want to go that direction.
And the writers
budget
make a good point that they felt like this would have been better suited to have an American director, because you're dealing with kind of an American pop culture phenomenon, and it's set in an all-American setting.
Magic Mountain.
And here we've got a foreigner who's coming in because he's more of a, budget guy.
I was going to say,
and that's not Gordon Hessler is a accomplished director, and that's part of the deal too. So I'm not, that's not to discredit him at all.
Yeah.
The production cost that I have is $2 million, which is, I depending on where you get your source. Some people say that was, an average, maybe a high average, but that was average. But I've got it as high for television and low, of course, very low for a theatrical movie.
It sure didn't go into the special effects.
No, that's there's some cost cutting measures, but no, I don't think they thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Then there was also the caveat that Joseph Barbera insisted that, okay, the tongue. he was repulsed by this. He did not understand it. He did not like it. He wasn't sure. Is this sexual? What is this?
He was so confused.
And so the compromise was he allowed it to be seen 4 times.
Yep.
Now that I'm thinking about it,
over the course of a 2-hour TV movie.
And if you pay attention, they're very predominant moments. Like, because I can almost pinpoint them. Like, one of them is like when Gene is lifting the mummy character.
That's the only time I can think of it. I guess he does it on stage.
I was gonna say
There's
the
a few
stage
times
shows.
on stage, and like when they're coming off the stage right before us, the Star Child scene, when he's like,
How was that again?
Oh, trust me, there'll be plenty of reenactments in this episode.
It's pretty accurate, actually.
The thing is that everyone that's seen this movie knows exactly what you're talking about.
Oh,
And
I know.
anyone else that hasn't, it's like, what the fuck?
It's like, that's all I had to say was Star Child, do, and they know exactly. Yeah.
What the, okay.
Let's not get there yet.
Yeah.
Pre-pro. Because so one of the other things I found interesting, and I forget where I picked this up. It may have been one of their Gene or Paul's books, but someone from the production company was sent to hang out with Kiss for a day or two to kind of get a vibe with how they spoke, the way they interact with each other.
Oh, yeah.
And apparently on that day, Ace was off. He was having an off day, and he was being rather quiet, and all he really did was that little noise. So legend has it, when he got the script, there was no lines for him initially, and all it had was like 1 or 2 lines and him probably saying and he's like, what the fuck is this? And they're like, you didn't talk. They don't know what to fucking say.
Yeah, that's all you did. Yeah, it has been alleged that they literally sat down and counted the lines that each member had.
Yeah.
And he's got 212 lines and I've only got 72. That kind of thing.
But then Ace was even like, I have 20.
I don't know. I've seen that was a fact, and I've also seen that it was like, no, they didn't really do that. So I don't know.
I've heard more on the yes than the no.
I don't think they actually counted the lines. I can see that if they looked at the script and went, I don't have, and saw that, I don't have as many lines.
I think it was just that cursory overview of kind of skimming it and just seeing Gene, Paul, Gene, Paul, Gene, Paul, Peter, Paul, Gene, Ace.
You're seeing again. This is all taking root at the same time that they're starting or have already started recording their solo albums.
Yeah, so
we're seeing this
cracks,
this competitive thing develop between them. Now, meanwhile, Aucoin very wisely insists, upon looking on the script, he's like, no, Kiss can never be seen as individual members. They have to be together all the time. They're always a group. So there's no screen time of any one member alone. Now, of course, this changes when you have the evil robot Gene, blah, 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 blah. But as a unit, and that's actually really smart. Mm-hmm. That keeps them all on equal footing, and if you watch it, especially when as a child watching this, I wouldn't have sat there and figured one talked more than the other, because visually that's what's selling this whole thing.
Gene's brother was an only child.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Let's talk about the cast real quick before we go into this, who they've got casted. I don't know if y'all have any information on this. We'll start with the hoodlums, the gang. I want to start with the big star in this.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, is
the villain, the Phantom, the titular Phantom. I love that word, titular.
Gee, why do you like that word, Russ?
I don't know.
The Nazi scientist. No, not really.
It just points out at me somehow.
There it is.
But no, Anthony
Zerbe.
Yes.
Zerbe. Gotcha.
And he was the main bad guy in the movie Omega Man. That's probably what most people remember him from. His other credits, he was in Papillon,
Cool Hand Luke.
Parallax View, easy for me to say.
Yeah.
He would wind up later in the Dead Zone, the original, I guess the Cronenberg Dead Zone, and he is in the Matrix films.
Oh shit! Okay.
Which I don't recall.
I don't remember watching those movies at all.
I'm looking those up right now. One of the
He
counselors,
was,
one of those.
he was like
second
the second and
Thank
third
you,
one.
Chris Morrison from the Couch Potatoes is hanging out. He's slowly becoming a Kiss fan, and he's over here throwing out his Couch Potato knowledge for us.
Movie, so I have to say something.
is apparently one of the counselors in like the Zion scenes and all that.
Yeah. So he's an accomplished actor. It is interesting to note that he does not include this in his resume.
I mean,
but well, it's a cult film. I would think that at some point you would come to embrace the fact that it is a campy cult film.
That has been seen by a very niche and expansive audience at this point too.
And the role of
Calvin Richards.
Calvin Richards, thank you. It's Carmine Caridi.
Mm-hmm.
His Wikipedia photo is hilarious. It just looks like he's just wide-eyed from doing coke all night.
What's interesting about this guy is that a lot of this is, and I'm a big Godfather fan, and when I saw his name pop up another time, I was like, that's the guy from Kiss Me Savannah with the Blood. This was Francis Ford Coppola's first choice to play the role of Sonny Corleone.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was a very coveted role.
Yeah.
And then, he of course, Coppola was wanting unknown actors, which he got with Pacino.
James Caan. Oh.
No, Caan was the big star that that Paramount wanted.
Oh, okay.
If they had it their way, they would have had Robert Redford as Michael Corleone.
I didn't know
which
that.
is bizarre when you think about it.
Right.
But Carmine Caridi, I don't know if it's pronounced Caridi or Caridi, but
yeah, that's one of those weird ones I'm looking at too. Caridi's fine,
but yeah, we'll just go with that. And he would also appear in the sequels for The Godfathers as minor roles. He was the one of the Rosado brothers in Godfather 2.
Yes,
he's the one that comes up behind
Carmine Rosado.
He comes up behind Frankie Five Fingers, and Michael Corleone says hello.
Yeah. See, he was in The Gambler also, and Car Wash with that was Richard Pryor, wasn't it? Car Wash.
You got me on that one.
You got me on that one too, bud.
Okay, no, it's not. I'm looking. Oh, it's George Carlin.
Yeah, Carmine. So that's he's
Richard Pryor's in that. Sorry.
You kind of got to look at this guy and go, if his career trajectory could have gone a whole complete other direction had he got the role of Sonny Corleone. But instead, no. Now he winds up in a TV movie of the week with
Kiss.
Kiss. But this is a generational thing that there's a million kids out there that know that guy's face because he was in this movie. And,
absolutely.
I think he's just recently passed. And I'm surprised he's never turned up any like Kiss cons or anything like that. Maybe he did, but nothing that I can recall. Of course, I'm not patched into the Kiss Con thing because
I was gonna say I don't ever remember seeing articles about that.
It's weird to me that no one's ever made an effort to assemble this cast at a Kiss Con somewhere.
Maybe they just don't want to.
Yeah, maybe the effort was made and they just weren't successful because the lead actress is
Deborah
Ryan, who has some television and soap opera credits, but then her career just sort of peters out.
Yeah, she's got some stuff like Simon and Simon, Chips, BJ and the Bear,
so this is
shit
all
like that.
Era that was all in that era, late 70s, early 80s kind of thing, and then I guess she just gave up.
And same thing with Chopper and Slime, but neither one of them really did
John
much.
Dennis Johnston plays Chopper, right?
Yeah.
That guy pops up in a lot of stuff. He played a heavy in a lot of things. He was a character actor that stayed very busy, kind of resembled John Saxon in a way. And I don't recall him having any lead roles, but I know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even looking at the filmography he was part of, none of them like immediately like call out and like, oh wow, he was in that movie.
Well,
kind of
when
thing.
you spy him though, when you see him, he's got such a recognizable face.
I mean,
that
he was
you're
in
like,
The Tick.
Well, there you go.
See the Twilight Zone movie, and another episode of the series as well. Appearances on Golden Girls. He stayed busy too.
And I don't know who. I didn't look up Slime.
Yeah, I'm looking at him now. That was John Lisbon Wood. He was in Beverly Hills Cop. Looks like Dark Man. He was in the second Beverly Hills Cop, rather. Dark Man, which is a 1990 movie. He was
you've never seen Dark Man?
No.
Oh, you're missing out. Dark Man. Oh my goodness, that's a fun one, dude. You would love that.
Okay. Yeah, and then like ER and like a few other little TV spots, but that was it.
And Lisa Jane Persky.
Yes.
Now I happen to
Dirty
know,
D.
played Dirty D. Lisa Jane. I don't have any of this written down, so I'm kind of rolling off the top of my head. She at the time was dating Gary Valentine, who was the bass player in Blondie. She was a very big part. Here we go again. And we keep coming back to this with certain ancillary figures and the Kiss thing, the Kiss mythos. She was part of that New York City CBGB scene.
Okay.
And she was heavily involved in all of that and pursued her acting career and did pretty well for herself as a character actress. Lots of different roles along the way, but I just think it's interesting that at this point in time that she's right there in the thick of the whole New York CBGB punk scene, and here she winds up in a Kiss movie. And she says in interviews, like, you know, there was nothing more uncool to that cadre of people than Kiss.
Yep.
Which is interesting because you're looking at 4 years prior, Kiss are basically playing shows within the what became that scene.
Oh yeah.
And those people, you know, they weren't that far removed. I have somewhere someone photocopied an article that was published around this time where they're saying it's not fair to judge Kiss as like you're doing, and are they really that more cartoony or any less cartoony than our beloved brothers, the Ramones?
Yeah, and that
which
seems
is fair. And the guy that sent it to me told me that it was under a pen name that was Handsome Dick Manitoba of the Dictators that had written it.
Oh shit.
So, but that's a hard line in the sand for some people because even, you know, at this point, because at this point, like we said, the Kiss cult following has been kind of, you know, it started as more of a darker kind of like post glam leather bondage weird, you know, we talk about the famous S&M photo shoot where the girl gets, you know, increasingly
mutilated and touched.
and disrobed to where she's fully nude.
Well, I mean, Peter even had a knife with like fake blood and shit.
And that's only 2 years prior to this.
Yeah.
They will not, you know, absolutely would not be doing it at this point.
Looking at the IMDb for Lisa Jane Persky, Dirty D, Cap, you may want to look this one up. Because I was just looking through her filmography and it doesn't have it immediately listed, but she was apparently a voice actress on King of the Hill.
Well, let's take a look here. It doesn't have the who she voiced on the
not on just the quick little
Isn't
slide
she
down.
in Working Girl?
The one I saw that popped up on her wiki the quickest was When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
When Harry Met Sally. Okay. And then I know she's in Peggy Sue Got Married.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to say...
that was the one I was about to say. Grace Santini.
She was in a Meatloaf TV movie, To Hell and Back.
Oh, I understand.
And the thing is like, I'm looking at her IMDb photos now, and it's like, I get it, you know, she's a little older now, but it's like, not now, but good Lord, at least back in the Phantom of the Park days, whew, I was watching it again tonight, and I was like, good Lord.
Oh, yeah.
I thought she was a cutie.
Yeah, she was cute. Yeah, absolutely.
Coneheads.
Yeah, she was the neighbor.
Okay.
But then, let's see, so... After that, you really just have, Don Steele.
We gotta mention the real Don Steele because he pops up in a lot of movies in the 70s and they're all low budget movies,
including a movie that come out a year later,
Rock and Roll High School.
Rock and Roll High School.
He's kind of the Greek chorus in Rock and Roll High School of sorts, and then he's also in Death Race 2000.
Yep,
and,
Gremlins.
So Don Steele was a radio DJ, and if you watch the Land of Hype and Glory, there's a scene where they go to a radio station, and that's Don Steele's radio show that they're doing.
He's even featured in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as recent as a couple of years ago.
Well, it's probably his voice because I think he's long since passed.
I remember watching the movie tonight right before you came over, and as soon as I saw him pop up, I was like, "Is that Don fucking?" Like, I was just like, or I didn't know the name, but I was just like, "Is that the guy from fucking Rock and Roll High School?" And I immediately pulled out my phone. I was like, "Son of a bitch, it is!"
Sure is. And since we mentioned his voice, we'll also add that Peter Criss's voice is dubbed in this movie.
Yes,
and we'll get to the reason why. But the guy that does the dubbing is a guy named Michael Bell. And probably most famous, at least for that generation that watched this movie, he did Hanna-Barbera, obviously. Mm-hmm. He was the voice of Nan the Wonder Twin.
Oh, okay.
And we spotted it. I mean, we could recognize right away. We're like, it's like
that's not Peter's voice.
Like one of the Wonder Twins. So After that, so let's get down into the.
Well, we forgot the breakout star, Brian James.
Oh yeah, Brian James, who would he was character actor in so many things.
I saw like his Wikipedia photo, and I was just like, oh, this fucking guy.
Oh yeah, he's the guy in Blade Runner who says he plays wake up, time to die.
Uh-huh. And actually, we went through the entire cast.
Yep.
But we didn't talk about Sam.
Oh yeah, Sam. Okay, so
Terry Lester.
Yeah, who I guess it was originally cast, and they shot a couple of days with an actor named Sam Cotton, who was the son of Joseph Cotton, who was part of the Mercury Players that Orson Welles assembled. He stars in the movie Citizen Kane. And they used him for a couple of days, and Joseph Barbera was watching, I guess, the dailies and decided, no, I want a blonde. I need a blonde surfer type. And so they fired the guy.
Damn.
And they went back and they hired this guy like on the quick.
So is he blind? Is he good looking? Bring him in.
Yeah, we need a blonde surfer boy looking type guy. I don't look at this guy as a blonde surfer type.
No, he just looks like a typical 70s teen. He didn't even seem surfery.
He didn't look like a teenager to me. He looks like he's like 32 years old or something.
I thought mid-20s. I saw
looks
him.
old.
Well,
I don't
even
know.
though I guess that's not teens either. Yeah, you're right. But what's funny, I'm looking at his known for filmography on Wikipedia or on IMDb, and it doesn't show everything. You have to click all filmography to see it all. Dude, Kiss Me It's the Phantom is the third to the last movie in the long scroll, and it's all shit that like no one cares about, like Young and the Restless, Arc 2.
Well, yeah, that's right. I forgot he is in Arc 2. I forgot all about that. That was a Saturday morning show, live action show. But I thought that was a Shimer Prescott production. I wonder. Or if that was Hanna-Barbera. Because I think Shimer Prescott did the ISIS and Captain Marvel live action thing. I think that was Prescott Shimer.
Here, let's see.
Which would have been Filmation.
Yeah, it's not immediately
I don't know
saying
that this has any
thing.
relevance to Kiss Me It's the Phantom. By the way,
No,
as we record this, the actress that played Isis just recently passed.
Oh, shit.
She was foxy.
Her photo just popped up here.
She fine.
All right, back on Kiss Talk. Quit wandering off, Cap.
Google. ISIS.
Recruitment. Oh, back away. Click.
All right, anyway.
I caught that.
Okay, so that's the cast. They start filming this. I guess they filmed this across the month of May 1978 at Magic Mountain Amusement Park. Technically, I guess in Valencia, California. Where exactly where that is in proximity? It's the Los Angeles region. I don't know. Do y'all have any info on that?
I didn't know that was going to be part of our
well,
research. I didn't know I needed to look at how far their distances were.
There's a lot of movies that were filmed at Magic Mountain, and you can. I guess they filmed the movie. I'm going to have these senior moments now because I didn't write this down. I think it was The Fury. And then there was a movie I liked a lot as a kid called On the Air Live with Captain Midnight.
Right. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Captain Midnight.
No, this was
wasn't the same one?
About a kid who has a pirate radio station that he and they have it mobile in his van, and
But yeah,
causes all kinds of.
But yeah, this was in California.
Yeah, hijinks and mayhem. But Magic Mountain features prominently in a lot of movies. But so I don't know what the deal was. But apparently they were only allowed to film in the park over a course of a couple of days. So most of this is filmed on sets in Culver City,
like basically anytime they cut away and it's not in the park, it's a set.
Yeah. Which
pretty smart.
It is. But they got a lot of stuff in the park too.
Oh yeah,
and obviously the concert scene that was filmed in the park.
So I actually have a little bit of information on that concert scene stuff. So they apparently that was done all in one night, or like it was over the span of just primarily one. I think they may have done like 2 shows, but like the main filming was done in one evening. They did a couple lip sync portions to start it off, and then Paul would go, "Okay, now we're going to give you a real show," and then they would play a set afterward. Right. Well, it's always been heavily rumored that the entire show was actually filmed using those high grade cameras. Well, you bringing up the money earlier even kind of better solidifies this. Someone kind of re-brought this topic back up on the KISS FAQ message boards, and they're like, okay, well, we've heard rumors about it. Do you think this footage is ever going to get released? We see new snippets here and there, but never like the full footage. And someone just kind of went at it logically and went, okay, well, let's just assume that, the footage could still be around.
Mm-hmm.
If they spent, what would you say, like $1 million, $2 million on the film?
Mm-hmm.
How much they would have had to have recorded of just that show, and how little of it wound up being used. It wasn't KISS doing the filming, it was Hanna-Barbera. Hanna-Barbera wouldn't give a shit about capturing an entire KISS show.
Right.
They're only interested in capturing
what
the
they need.
little bit that they need
Right.
and moving the fuck on.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have kind of come to the conclusion of that show actually does not exist, and if it does, it's probably gone.
Yeah, and if they did film the whole thing, it would belong to Hanna-Barbera.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes into that idea that Hanna-Barbera owns the footage, but KISS owns the music, and they'd have to come to an agreement for it to all come out.
And
that's why so much of the KISS video stuff, there's a lot of stuff that never came out or hasn't come out because the actual ownership of the visual of it belongs to one entity, and then the music belongs to another entity, and they've got to come to an agreement to get it released.
I mean, we can even take it to like a modern day thing. Let's just say I had, hardcore big boy contracts with every artist that I recorded their live videos of, like their shows. If I wanted to be an ass, in my clause, I could say, after your initial posting, you're not allowed to use this video footage again because I own this footage, and I would be able to monetize and put out a live DVD of all these tours I've seen because of the contract they signed.
That's what KISS would do, and it went in certain instances where they would buy the footage. So
the 77 HBO special or 76 HBO special is one of them that comes to mind.
And they were careful to make sure that the ownership would revert to them. So you wanted to go over some of the differences between this movie does in fact get a theatrical release in
everywhere
Europe.
But US.
But in the US, it's a television movie, and it airs on, I think October 28th, 1978. Is that right?
Yeah, it was supposed to be part of their little Halloween block.
And it, okay, so let's talk about a little bit, since you've got this kind of outline. There's differences between the TV print that we saw, and then the theatrical print that went out everywhere else.
Yes, so they even gave it a different title as KISS and Attack of the Phantoms, which
is a better name than KISS Meets the Phantom. I mean, that is the dumbest name ever. But when you're a little kid, you're just like, Phantom. That just sounds cool.
KISS Meets the Phantom just sounds like a Scooby-Doo episode too.
Yeah,
like Scooby-Doo meets the Three Stooges or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, real quick before we even get into the plot points of the movie, where was the first time you saw it, Russ? Because I think you told us this off mic. I don't know if you told this on mic.
No, the first time I saw it was on Snowy Reception the night it aired in my living room.
Oh shit! Okay.
And where I lived at in Virginia, it was kind of a rural area, and we really couldn't pick up but one station clearly, and we could. And I watched it on. It was Channel 12 out of High Point, North Carolina.
Wow, so it reached up that high.
Yeah, and all the way up into Virginia, yeah. And it was on Bad Snowy Reception. That's my memory of it.
Wow.
I would not see it again until I was 14. Coincidentally, on the same weekend that I saw KISS in concert for the first time, my first concert, December 28th, 1985. And then me and my friend Eric went back up. He came down from Virginia to North Carolina, and we saw the show, went to the concert. And then we went back to Virginia because it was Christmas break. And that night that we went to see the show, it aired as a late night movie. Oddly enough, on CBS, if I remember right. It was an NBC movie, but it wound up CBS. It wound up as a CBS late night movie. I might have that wrong, but oddly enough, though, it aired it all.
Right.
And so, back then you had your VCR and you could timer tape it.
Oh, technology.
So yeah, technology, man. And we went back to Virginia, and it was like it was going to be a big deal. We were going to watch this thing again, So that was really the first where I could watch it and it really process. Because my memory of it, watching it when I was little, I mean, you're not sophisticated enough to sit there and look at this and go, this is a piece of shit. But when you're 14, you can look at it and go, oh, you know. But it was cool because it was Kiss, you know, and it had a nostalgia vibe, and that was the first real, you know, starting to really get that sense of nostalgia. And we're in 1985. You're talking. This is
less than 10 years later.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of bizarre. But
what was the first time you saw it, Cap?
Here in this apartment.
No shit.
So I never had that morbid curiosity to sit down and watch it, because even the band members themselves would be like, this fucking movie sucks. So I never had that, you know, and I didn't have access to it either. I mean, like, I imagine like folks my age or like Alex's age wouldn't have a very accessible version of it until maybe the Kissology box sets came out.
Yeah.
Because you never saw this in video stores, or it wasn't
there was a
airing
home
on
video release in some point 20 some years ago, and it's from what I understand, it's not a legal release.
So I looked into that a little bit. There was one legal release that came out, and that's the copy that Mom and I have. Or at least I say that she was the one that purchased it. It's in my possession. But that's the one that's kind of like a drawn album cover that has Kiss up top, and then kind of in like kind of slashy, kind of splattery letters that says "Meets the Phantom of the Park"
with Peter and Gene on the cover.
Yeah, with Peter. Yep, that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah. So the one that's on the Wikipedia page that people take a look at.
Who put that out?
Let's see who put this version out. It just says cover of the film's 1998 VHS release.
Oh, so 98
or 88.
Oh, 88. So okay.
Yeah. So that's the one that I'm thinking of.
I thought that was in an official release. I thought that was I don't want to say illegal, but I mean, somebody felt like probably they had the legal right, but because they're using. I don't think Kiss had anything to do with it.
This dynamic rock group, let me read the tiny print on here, makes their film. The print is so like small and against like this white suit on the.
The dynamic rock group makes their film debut battling a demented genius inventor. How can I read that on a smaller screen than you can? And we're looking at the same page.
Because Cap is blind.
I guess. I had to zoom in on it.
But yeah, so I think. So how do we really want to go about it? Well, actually, yeah. So my first time viewing, I don't remember the exact order in which I saw everything, but I remember distinctly being in the car with Mom and her using that movie as bait for me to be good for the rest of the day. Seriously, I remember that but I remember...
You better be good or else you can't watch the Kiss movie.
That's all she said. You can't watch the Kiss movie. And I was so hardcore. I think at that point, all I'd really seen was like The Second Coming. So I think she had hunt down that copy of the VHS tape and like had it shipped, or she found it at the video store, and we were already living in Gaffney, South Carolina, so we didn't really have a lot to go on. I don't know how she got it. I knew that you were sending bootleg tapes at the time, Russ, because I've still got two that you sent us.
Okay.
So I know we were getting bootleg tapes from you at the time.
That wasn't me. That wasn't me. I don't bootleg tapes.
That's enough time. Enough time's passed. No one gives a fuck now. But so around that same time period, though, she was able to hunt that movie down because I wanted to see it so bad. And whenever she finally got it, she's like, "You gotta be good the rest of the day. You're not seeing the Kiss movie." And I remember watching it the first time and lying to myself the entire time, being like, "This is awesome. Oh, this is great. Oh, I love this. This is
how
awesome."
How old are you?
29.
No, how old were you then?
Jeez.
How old are you when you watch it is what I mean.
Let's see. If I remember watching Second Coming around that time period, Second Coming came out in what, like 97, 98? Mm-hmm. So it had to be maybe around between 6 and 8.
So even at that age, you were thinking this wasn't...
Because
I was that age when I watched it the first time, and it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
I think the disconnect was me being an early 90s kid growing up with the Star Wars re-release on VHS.
Oh, well, yeah,
And so many other things I'm receiving, I'm able to almost use as a basis of example of good.
I'm gonna say that what I think you're doing, that disconnect was what existed for me to come out of post Star Wars and then look at a movie like Godzilla going, that looks like a guy in a rubber suit.
Yeah, no,
And
that
even though
example I was going to use.
But my ability to suspend disbelief might have been greater because
Well,
but I could tell, like, when you watch the Godzilla movies, you're like, that looks phony as shit.
Yeah.
Well, so it wasn't even that, like, I didn't like it, because I've always had a special place in my heart for this horrible movie. But the scenes I always enjoyed was, and this isn't getting too far ahead, but, like, the first Robot Gene scene where he's beating up the cops and you see all the strings and shit. Like, even though I could tell that was so fake, that was still enjoyable because it was still Kiss doing something crazy. And, like, any of the action scenes where Kiss was, like, fighting people, it was fun. Yeah. But every time it would cut to Devereaux and, like, his fucking, Kiss is destroying my park, and shit like that. Even as a kid, I was like, dude, chill. Like, those were the moments when I was like, what? No.
Get rid of these other characters, more Kiss.
Yeah. But no, so I was able to catch that one early on, and I remember when, like what Cap was saying, when the Kissology movie version came out, God, I was a fucking nerd, because it's like I was already like into the whole video editing and like paying attention to like I would like watch a movie and then I would spend the next 2 hours watching all the bonus features of how they made it. And like more often than not, I was the kid that like, I want to watch Spider-Man. I would grab the movie and put on the bonus features and watch the making of. For some reason, that captivated me so much.
We don't have anything like that for the Kiss Meets the Phantom.
We don't. So when that alternate version came out, and I was able to see all the different scenes and the different cuts and the different edits, that was about as close as we could ever get to it.
You've gone full nerd on this.
Well,
let's just go ahead and say that right now. I mean,
yes, I did go full nerd on this
podcast. This might be the absolute apex, or maybe the absolute nadir of nerddom here.
Yeah, we were watching it earlier, and he was like pointing out all the little nuances and little details of the editing jobs.
Let's go ahead and let's just issue a disclaimer now. At this juncture, Alex Stiff has gone full nerd.
I really have, because this is like as much of a music nerd I can be. I am much more a visual nerd.
Let's hear it. Well, what do we got?
So, do we want to go through it beat by beat through the movie, or like do we just want to talk about?
How much of this do you got? Because how much time do we got on the show?
I mean, I can get real bad with it, because I mean they did a whole lot of different edits, even down to.
I point out the high spots, because some of this stuff you're going to point out is probably going to be pretty insignificant
to you, maybe.
Yeah, but let me say, I mean, like, let's just right at the top. What's the first thing you notice different?
I mean, straight from the get-go, the start off of the movie does not start the same way as the U.S. version does. So with Kiss in Attack of the Phantoms, it starts off immediately with the couple on a roller coaster and all this stuff, and then you slowly hear a swell of Rock and Roll All Night drums in the background. The doo, doo, doo,
right. Okay. Yeah. I don't need the sound effects.
I will give you sound effects. I will paint a fucking picture, man. You'll go down your diatribes. I'm going down mine. Damn it! This is my moment to shine.
Okay. Again, full nerd.
Full nerd.
All right. So
essentially,
I'm buckling in.
I am too.
No. So essentially, they add in an additional good like 30 seconds of like roller coaster shit before they bust into their what I would have to also call the highlight of the movie is the intro piece.
The intro piece is phenomenal, by the way.
Yes, with all four members superimposed on different parts of the amusement park, singing Rock and Roll All Night.
Paul Stanley shooting lasers out of his eye, and the lasers become a staircase.
You're going way too far. That's their entrance to their stage. I'm talking about the intro of the movie.
Wasn't that not in the...
it's not in the intro of the movie.
Okay, never mind.
Because I said lip syncing Rock and Roll All Night. You're describing the beginning of the stage.
Here's what I distinctly remember that part where they're walking on the water fountain.
Yes. So I pointed that out to him too.
That's something that really stuck out in our brains. We just thought that was really, really cool. I don't know why, but when you're little kids, you're like, wow, man, they're walking on the water fountains. That was cool.
And then you look at it now and it's like, oh, they're on see-through boxes and those are superimposed on top of it.
It doesn't matter. It's still cool.
That and they're just just walking so awkwardly in those fucking platforms.
Well, that's because there was a very high risk of them slipping and falling.
Well, talking about the platforms, Chris Morrison, he had not seen the movie yet, and he loves movies that are so bad they're good. And I was like, oh, well, you got to watch this then. So it's like there was multiple times where he's like, those heels are really impeding of their running after people because they're walking so stiff-legged.
So let's go save him. Plod, plod, plod.
Yeah.
Plod.
Clomp, clomp, clomp.
Yeah, so honestly, a lot of the main edits happen in the first bit of the movie because the original theatrical just starts cold screen with the Rock and Roll Over album cover, that scene, and then the marching band.
Right.
And then they cut to Devereaux and
the opening credits. Right.
Yes. Well, then they cut to the marching band, and then Devereaux and the owner kind of talking about Kiss playing there that night. In Attack of the Phantoms, they add in like a whole bunch of extra like animatronic scene. You get a little bit more with the DJ that was in Rock and Roll High School. He's in it a little bit more. But probably the most notable change, and it's the one change that I hate they made, and the entire time I was bitching going, I wish they didn't do this. I wish it was the old version because it would be so much better if it was. They replaced all the cool 70s porno background music with Kiss solo album material.
Porno music. That wasn't
Shaft
a porno. That wasn't a porno. Not fair to call it porno music. It wasn't used in a porno. It was used for a Kiss movie. But I know what you're talking about. They had that stock.
Yes.
Whatever.
That
Well,
Shaft
actually, that
fucking,
music was, I think, actually scored for that movie, believe it or not.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And they replace it in Attack of the Phantoms with Kiss
Like
songs.
there's little moments of it still left, and when it would come in and swell, I'd be like, guys, this is what it sounded like the whole fucking time.
No, it's not Kiss music. It's Peter Criss, Ace Frehley.
Well, yeah, from the solo album.
Yeah, oddly enough, they picked all solo album material except for one song,
Which is?
Almost Human.
Yeah.
They
Where
insert
does they play that at?
with an additional scene. So, for some reason, they decided to keep this scene in, and it completely fucks up the continuity of the entire movie. Okay, so fast forward a good bit. Kiss is already aware that something's going on in the park, and it's their walking through the park thing while Abner Devereaux's fucking with the park and turning shit on them, and they're getting through all the fights with the white bear-looking people. Right before all that kicks
Wampas.
in, yes, the Wampas. Literally right before that scene, it cuts back to the Cheech and Chong fucking security guards, or the straight man and the stoner security guards. They're hanging out in their little thing. Dude's still in a sling from Robot Gene throwing him up against the wall. They make some sort of, back and forth bad 70s joke. And they're like, yeah, working here is like a gas. As the room starts filling up with gas, and you hear wow, wow, da, 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 the Almost Human riff kick in. And I swear to God, it's the red suits from earlier in the film.
The British redcoats.
Yeah, the redcoats. They come walking in to Almost Human and grab the two security guards and walk out with them.
That's the only part where like the colonial robots are used.
Yeah, because you see them earlier in the film and they never get shown again. Okay. Well, apparently they shot that scene. But what's weird, and the reason I say it fucks up all the continuity, is that happens, and then a few scenes later, after Kiss gets kidnapped and the robots are about to take over the show, those same security guards are standing outside acting like nothing happened.
Well, that's probably why they cut it out then, maybe. I don't know.
So that's why I find it odd that they put it back in.
Interesting.
Villain even says earlier in the movie, he says, my products are almost human. And I immediately start singing it out loud.
And honestly, the one edit, and it's so, I don't know why they did it. There's absolutely no reason why they had to do this. They weren't trying to trim up time. It's not like they said something bad. It's just one of the stupid arbitrary edits. Ace already didn't have lines, or barely had lines to start with. Hi, Curly. Yeah, basically. And they've got guns. That's the extent of his fucking lines. Right. The one major line he has is as they're walking up to the Tower of Terror, that haunted house thing. Yeah. They're kind of hiding out.
They say it's too quiet, and he starts singing Rocket Ride.
Yes, that's the exact scene. And what does he do? He goes, it's a little too quiet.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you say so? She
Yeah.
wants a rocket ride. She wants a... And then he gets hushed on the second line of she wants a rocket ride. On this, literally, it goes, why didn't you say so? She wasn't... Shh.
Oh, yeah.
They cut that part. And I'm sitting here going, I'm like, there's no reason for that. That's one of those arbitrary... I called it a George Lucas cut. Yeah. It's arbitrary. It wasn't needed. They just cut 2 seconds of dialogue.
They didn't want to have to pay for
Ace royalties.
Ace royalty on using his song.
Yeah, this Kissology product was a Paul and Gene
they may
project.
That may have something to do with it, but who knows? Who knows?
I just always found that odd though that like they cut that because that was always one of my. I laughed about that the hardest as a kid because I'm sitting here going, oh, Ace referenced one of like his brand new songs. Like when you think about the context at the time, that's one of his brand new songs. So it's like, it's kind of cool. And it almost gives it more of that Hard Day's Night vibe. So for them to cut it is a little weird. I don't know. That's just me.
All the dialogue's pretty goddamn poor within all the members.
And I don't even know if it's even so much the dialogue as also the delivery is so wooden because none of the actors are necessarily that good.
And like other weird...
The subplot, I think, of what's driving Abner Devereaux insane, I think that's... obviously, you got better actors. It's better delivered.
Well, even his motive is fucked because in that initial conversation, when the park owner's trying to explain, why they're even bringing Kiss in, he goes, he's like, I've made you millions from my animatronics. He's like, yes, and you've been paid fairly. He's like, it's not about the money. And then 2 seconds later, he goes, and you just keep cutting my funding. And I'm like, is it about the money or is it not about the money?
Yeah. Well, that's true.
So even his motives are a little weird.
The holes in this are big enough to drive, semi trucks through, but that's okay. I mean, again, this was so fast and so
rushed.
They played fast and loose with this thing, and it just.
I will say, with all the little things that Kiss likes to monetize and release and stuff, there are 2 pieces from this movie that feel so ripe for any of like these expanded Love Gun editions, because they're doing all these super deluxe versions of these records now. Why they've not released the acoustic version of Beth from the pool scene.
Yeah.
Because it's in great quality. And why they haven't released Rip and Destroy.
That one's just awful anyway.
Just as bonus tracks, not to like hang the hat on, buy this release because this is on it, but like why they haven't included them just as fun little bonuses to something, I don't know.
Well, maybe they just don't feel that they're really release worthy. I don't
think
know.
the acoustic Beth would be because I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
One thing I'll give this movie though is that has like some of the most crisp Kiss footage from this time period too, even though they're all lip syncing or it's to a recorded version.
I have not watched this in a while. I purposely avoided watching this again.
It's not a good movie,
but I do know that from having seen it. I don't think the concert footage is really all that spectacular. I think
compared to like the film quality.
The film quality is great. I mean, as far as the clarity and everything.
That's what I'm getting at.
And it would be cool if that surfaced as a complete concert. But I agree with what the speculation is on that.
Yeah.
But I don't think
which
it's
is unfortunate.
particularly.
I would love to see a full concert of that.
It would be cool, but unfortunately, I just don't think it's very well shot. And they do little things, if I remember, to try to add like excitement, like they do the big zoom in and out real fast thing, and stuff like that. And I'm like, I guess I just have a very kind of clear-cut idea in my own head how that should have been presented.
Oh, yeah.
To me, you can't present, it to give the majesty of Kiss being Kiss, that aura, it should have all been filmed. All the live stuff anyway should have been filmed from below, like from the vantage point of the between the barricade and the stage, looking up. You should always be looking up at them, and instead of looking down or head on. The head on shots are just boring. There's no sense of excitement. There's no sense of energy, and it doesn't really convey to me what I had pictured in my brain as the excitement of a Kiss concert.
But you know what? I almost am willing to bet I know why they shot it like that.
Well, time and money.
Not even. Angles.
Well, but they could still do.
I bet you I bet Paul would have been like, "Don't shoot from down below." because no one is flattering from down
they
below.
They don't have any say in that. I'm sure of it. I'm sure they were told where their marks were and they hit them, and that was all that mattered. Because they claimed that was it. It's hit your mark, say your line.
Yeah.
And they were being fed their line from off camera.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like say it's this way.
Paul,
It's this way.
Your line today, and my favorite line in the whole movie. Let's go.
That's my favorite part too.
We literally had to reverse it up just to watch it again.
And I'm like, I wonder how many takes it took to get that in.
I don't know.
I'm sure one. It's like, okay, walk out on the bridge and say, "Let's go."
I don't know. My favorite series.
Clomp, clomp, clomp. Let's go.
My favorite series of lines is Easy Cat, man. They're serious.
Yeah.
And they've got guns.
Yeah.
That's my favorite sequence of lines.
But that works because he's mocking them because they have powers that, extend beyond that.
But for Ace to spit that line out too, with just that sarcasm too, it's just like, and they've got guns.
And I find it also interesting. They're using the concept of the talisman, which I think are also in the comic books. Whose idea was that? Who created that? And I think that might be a Sean Delaney thing. That's probably how they got away with copying something from that would have been intellectual property of Marvel Comics.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But evidently this would have been looked at as intellectual property of Kiss.
I thought the whole talisman thing was so cool, like as a kid.
Yeah,
I thought that was awesome.
I had no problem with that. I think this had the potential to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And if it were put in the right hands, and I think, first off, as it stands, it probably would, again, it would have worked better as an animated feature.
I agree.
It would have been way more exciting certainly for a kid like my age at that point, which is what they're aiming for. I'm surprised they never did anything animated until much later.
Recently.
And that kind of stuff didn't work. I could see the classic flat Hanna-Barbera traditional cell animation really servicing the Kiss thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, imagine Abner Devereaux as like a Scooby-Doo, mustache twirling
Kiss
villain.
As characters though would have worked better. That style of animation, not the style of animation that they do today, like what has wound up in the recent Scooby-Doo that they did and all that.
I know exactly what you mean.
That's all super stylized, and they it's not the same. Now, a lot of kids get confused. There was a Scooby-Doo episode that had a Kiss-like Kabuki character, and there are people to this day swear up and down, "Oh no, I saw a Kiss comic,
that dude
Kiss
had red
cartoon,
hair, everything
and
else."
I'm like, "No, you're thinking of something else. There was never an animated Kiss thing." But this is.
I was going to say, we talk about how poor the performances are by the individual members, but Gene tries in all of his scenes.
They all try, honestly. I think they all try. I think
Gene cared
they're
more.
Not succeeding. Well, Gene is I think he's buying into the camp of it.
Yeah.
Whereas,
that's kind of the fun of his scenes, though.
I think that, that we know now, again, and this feeds into like what we didn't know then being so vital, but we know now that they weren't getting along. Ace and Peter really, really did not like the long hours and sitting around.
They were tired of being in Kiss.
I think it was just the constant day in, day out costuming and makeup.
I think the only person that wasn't in it was Peter, because going back watching it, you can tell Paul is trying to lean into the camp a little bit. Gene's definitely leaning in, and knowing Ace, you can see like a little bit of like earnest acting on his face in some moments. Peter was just so checked out the entire time.
Peter's few lines. I mean, it's not his
voice.
Not his
voice, and he's not delivering it. All his stuff. I mean, we love Peter. We've made that very clear on this show. But like, we still have to call it when it comes out. And I think this is the first real moment that we see from Peter of him just not being a team player. I don't see it.
As this movie winds down to completion, Peter has a wild night out with Fritz Postlethwaite, who's
I've got that here.
Who was their monitor mixer and has become their tour manager.
So real quick before you mention that though, so the full timeline, May 1st was day one of shooting, and this is a funny little article too. It says in a local trade magazine, it says the first rock gothic mystery filmed for TV.
Gothic mystery.
Yes. So on May 1st is when they started it, and May 26th was the final filming day.
So 1 month.
Yes.
No, that makes sense.
And then, so they finished on the 26th. And on the 27th,
then
is when Peter
has his car wreck.
Yep.
And of course, he walks away for pretty much unscathed. I think he busted his arm up.
Yep, it says
arm.
Peter got a concussion plus rib and finger injuries. So yeah, basically a couple bruises.
But Fritz Postlethwaite, I can't even say his name. We'll just say Fritz.
Yeah.
He gets burned up pretty bad in this thing.
Yeah, it says he suffered serious burns.
And I think he ends up getting married in the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Says serious burns, but said to recover quickly.
Because he was set to get married, and I think they ended up having to have. I might have that wrong, but it seemed like I read that they ended up having to have them, exchange their vows while he was still in the hospital. Because I guess he wound up in intensive care, but I'm not 100% on the backstory on that.
And while all this is going on at the same time, Ace is bailing on set days to where they're having to get stunt doubles to play Ace
to
or
play
like
Ace. He had to cover for the fact that he isn't there. All that, but all that we know that now. But at the time, I don't think that wouldn't have really come into consideration. I might have looked at it as just the necessity of having a stunt double in any given scene.
Just how jarring that you can tell that it's like an African American guy wearing Ace's costume, whereas that's makeup. Clearly not Ace Frehley.
Yeah, it's a little bizarre. What else you got for this?
I mean,
I've got more of stupid minutia, but I feel like we were trying to move away from that quickly. So,
well, sorry. I didn't know how badly you wanted to pick this apart.
We're kind of has that Michael Crichton. Chris made a comment early as we were watching it, saying that it kind of has a Westworld feel to it.
Yeah. No. Let's talk about the wrap up of the film. How do we feel about the wrap up? So it's like literally, Kiss defeats Evil Kiss on stage, and then we go back to the lair, and Abner Devereaux is sitting there now with a head full of gray hair, all drawn long and shit, and they're just like, he created Kiss to destroy Kiss.
The end.
The end.
Yeah.
or the original version where they see the device on the
that's another edit, but no, we don't want to talk about all the stupid edits.
No, go ahead.
Both are equally as ridiculous.
Go ahead. How much of that is really in there, though? I mean, you've got that. That's kind of a major component. In the TV movie, the character of Sam, he's fallen under the trance-like control of the Phantom, of Abner Devereaux. And at the end, you see this little computer chip thing on his neck. Mm-hmm. A little circuit,
and Paul's just reaches for it,
and he just plucks it off, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, he's all better."
Yeah.
Now in the theatrical movie,
no, they grab the footage, and when you watch it, it's clearly looped. Like they kind of like paused the frame and kind of like made it jerk back and forth. Mm-hmm. Okay, comparison in Star Wars: A New Hope, when Luke gets attacked by the Sand Raider,
right?
And the guys lifting the thing. Yeah, they reversed and played it back and forth.
Play longer. Yeah.
Yep, they did the same thing. They kind of, but very poorly, kind of like back and forth the thing a little bit, and added Paul's little thing from his eye.
What was that again? Okay.
Again, that's exactly the sound effect that's used in the movie too.
I think that's actually the legit sound
effect.
Somebody's just on a mic.
Sitting in a sound studio going, okay, do it now.
As I called it, Paul Stanley's plot convenience superpower in his star eye.
So he
shoots it. He shoots it off. His
he just lasers it off. It's
but what other stuff is in the movie like that? I mean, how much of that is prevalent in the movie? Not little things, but stuff that's like big, because that's kind of a big thing. That's a big change.
Well, I guess in my opinion, a lot of that kind of stuff winds up being big changes, like the additional scene with the security guards, and then like even after that, Kiss gets on the merry-go-round, Devereaux turns it on, you hear the carnival music as they kind of go around in a second, then it slows down, stops, they get off and walk off.
Watch our heroes in peril on the merry-go-round.
That was in Meets the Phantom of the Park. In Attack of the Phantoms, that turns into a mini music video. It turns into a montage moment where it's like the carnival turns on, then it's A Man of 1,000 Faces starts playing, and it's like a montage scene of like Kiss is still on the goddamn merry-go-round, but now Devereaux's walking around his lair, spraying shit, wiping stuff down, tinkering with things, as it keeps clicking to Kiss going, I don't believe it, as they're just trapped on a merry-go-round. And it's like it turns into this whole minute-long sequence of a montage scene, and
weird.
then it
Do you
stops.
think that was probably added to give a little more length to the film, I guess, for a theatrical? Because, like,
I would guess so.
Because a lot of this stuff would have been cut to, it's a 2-hour time slot, but you have to allot time for commercials.
But I guess growing up with the old cut and watching that one, it feels so jarring.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and again, even and you can tell they were reusing footage because again, it's supposed to be nighttime, and all the shots they were using were at night, but you could tell they were turning down the brightness.
The day for night.
Because there were people on the roller coasters.
Right.
And like they were having to like darken certain spots to like make sure you couldn't see people on the roller coasters and shit like that. It's just very weird.
Yeah.
The editor brain just went crazy rewatching it, huh?
Oh yeah.
Well,
and honestly,
again,
my favorite special effect that they didn't try changing at all, in fact, it's probably more clear in this version, is Robot Gene and his very last little fuck you he does to all the guards when he walks up over to that little Coca-Cola shack. He turns around, growls at everyone again, turns around and just beats the fuck out of that shack, but he barely punches the roof. And again,
like,
you can watch it. He barely taps that thing, and you see the wires like yank it, and so that roof just goes fucking flying out of frame like 1,000,000 miles a minute just from like this tiny little tap. It's
like it's paper.
Well, I remember when he goes marching off and he juts his arms out so his wings are spread. It's such an awkward thing to see when you look at it now. It's like, it's just so poorly done.
The film career of a young Gene Simmons just taking off.
Well, I was telling them, I said, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the scene that kind of set Gene into the whole I like acting, because he just had like this big fight scene by himself. It wasn't his stunt double, and he was he was allowed to be the brooding demon, and he won that kind of thing.
Now, looking back at this film, and of course we get in hindsight, this could conceivably be called Kiss's jump the shark moment. I don't know that once this movie airs, their whatever cachet of cool they held seems to really just be eliminated at this point, and it becomes very much a kid or kiddie.
A kiddie band
a
almost.
Kiddie band thing.
I don't think. I think that's only visually and in film. In a film perspective, that doesn't kill the idea of Kiss as a band yet until the very next album.
Well, yeah. But I'm just saying. But this really, I think, that just solidifies what the impression is. But it seems like to me at this point, the movie comes in and it's like if you were. You got to remember as a teenager how time seems to be a little more distorted and diffracted, in that 5 years when you're a teenager is an obscene long time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
2 years is an obscene long time.
Yeah, 5 years is nothing now.
I can remember in 1988 getting a video of somebody gave me, he had taped MTV videos from 1986.
Oh, and it was so old.
And it just seemed so old to me. Like, I was like, man, I can't believe this is from way back. Now, I think it's also different because there's so much more happening. I think kids today, they're conditioned to the fact that they're, if they're listening to rock and roll, which I don't think a lot of kids do anymore, but a group like, say, Metallica, it's 6-8 years between albums. And that's just considered normal. Whereas back in the day, groups were putting out 2 albums a year.
Yeah.
So their sense of time is different. So if you were a Kiss fan that got on board in 1974 or 75, when Kiss is sort of this bastard anomalous thing that, it's like, hey man, do you know Kiss? Huh? And it's this almost borderline underground thing. Mm-hmm. And it quickly morphs so fast, and then here we are now 2, 3, 4 years later, and they're superheroes on TV selling to little children. You were 14 in 1975, now you're 17 or 18. Your Kiss is going to be like so passe.
Your favorite edgy band.
And that's what
from
I mean.
1974.
This might be the point where they jump the shark, because that would have been the breaking point. If I was 17 and they did that, I could see where I'd be like, you know what, I just ain't for me anymore.
It just kind of went from Black Sabbath to the Bee Gees.
Yeah, so
I would agree on that.
So this movie, it was a good idea, poorly executed, ill-conceived, slap-shotted together. If they had taken the time and the energy and the effort, though, to do something that had any kind of legs whatsoever, instead of trying to do this camp TV film, if they had done a theatrical film like Hard Day's Night, do you think the outcome would have been different? And do you think it would have still helped or hindered them at this point?
I mean, that's a shoulda, coulda, woulda kind of interesting thing to talk about.
And, it's like, to me, it's like the same thing as if they had continued on using Bob Ezrin as their producer, would they have gained more clout, critical clout, more respectability, while still being able to retain their credibility as a rock and roll act?
I think that comes back to your point that you made earlier about how the big thing with Kiss was their mystery, and how compared to the Beatles, we got the Beatles' personalities at face value, but with Kiss, that was all up to the listeners and fans' imagination.
So maybe the movie was too much. Maybe they were just showing too much of their hand at this point.
I think so.
Well, I think they still could have. I think, to call back to something you said earlier, which is, the plot of the movie isn't so bad if it was better executed with better actors.
Mm-hmm.
I think if Kiss had done a better job selling it, and they had a better cast around them and maybe had an extra $1 million to throw at it, it probably would have done a little better. But I think just with Kiss being so green on anything acting, them not even having a good cast around them to help lift them up a little bit even, I think it was just kind of set to fail from the start. And kind of thinking, even if it was an animated thing, I think that would have been cool in hindsight. But again, perspective, is, exactly that. People were going on about them being on, the special they did, Detroit Rock City and Beth.
Oh, on the with the Halloween special with Paul Lynde.
Paul Lynde, yes. Even that one was even kind of touted as, they were on that family variety show. So I'm thinking a cartoon, would have been
I was going to
worse.
say, conversely, a cartoon movie or a cartoon show would have had the same effect as this movie did.
I think it would have been worse.
But they've made two calculated moves that have backfired against them at this point. They're releasing 4 solo albums in a day, and none of them are hits.
Nope.
And now they do this TV movie. Now, the TV movie does well, but NBC has no faith in it and doesn't even promote it.
No, barely.
And barely promotes it, which shows they saw it and were like, we're just going to throw this out there and see what happens. And it did okay, but, not so much that they ever aired it again.
Yeah.
I don't recall any reruns of it.
Until that one you caught.
Until that one I saw. So, this whole thing is, and now they're priming the well for what is going to be ostensibly what they feel, I guess, would be their biggest year. And this is where we're going to go next on the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
Provided you're all right with us, you're going to see, this is the tragic, what do they call it? The second act.
Yeah.
Where the success is in abundance, but
the
cracks are getting bigger.
So hopefully you'll join us for the next episode of No Time to Turn, because it's going to get a little dark.
Just a little bit
dark.
Yeah, this is honestly the kind of the moment I feel like Cap and I have been kind of waiting for in these Kiss episodes, because basically from this moment on, every album is filled with drama.
Yeah.
And tons of backstory
so much
stuff.
going on.
So yeah, this is kind of when it takes off.
They've spent this time from their inception to this point, and that's why I say this is sort of a jump the shark moment, because this is the pinnacle. And now, someone's, you're going to have to pay the piper. Mm-hmm. And here it comes. So hopefully you guys will join us for the next episode of No Time to Turn. So for Alex and Cap, I'm Russ, and we will catch you next time when we explore the Kiss Dynasty.
Thank you for listening. Please insert another coin by supporting the show for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/somethinggoodnetwork.